Hello, everybody, and welcome back to today's drawing of this month's drawing. Because we're in day 4. That's day 4 of Inktober, guys, and we've already done day 1, 2, and 3. We're now on day 4 of Inktober 2019. If you have been following along, you already know what I've drawn. But if you haven't already known what I've been drawing this Inktober month, the first drawing and the first prompt was Ring, and we did the Lord of the Rings, or shall I say Smeagol holding the ring the ring that rules them all, or whatever they say for that. And then on day 2, we did a mindless one, and I thought mindless one wasn't enough. So what I've done is thinking of yourself. If you're standing in, you kind of become a little bit mindless because you don't need to do as much as you would in the physical world. So you become a little bit mindless, and that's what I've done there for a mindless one. If you want to know what mindless one is, look up Doctor Strange. He is one of the villains from Dumamu. That guy from the film. So yeah, and then on day 3, where the word was bait, and I did myself a wormio and a little shark coming up being attracted by the bait. And I'm trying not to burp, but day 3, we are in to day 3, and today's drawing is for the word freeze. And I've got a particular thing that I've planned, and if you're from the 90s, guys, you remember this reference. I'm not going to tell you what the reference is because I've got a little reference like I normally do off on the side. I won't show you the reference because I want you guys to guess if you can get the reference. I will let you know what the reference is at the end of the video if you do not know it itself. But yeah, if you're watching, guys, let me know. Give me... I'm going to get rid of that, actually. Give me a hi there in the comments. I'm actually going to get rid of that comment I put up there because that was me saying I'll be there soon. So I'll remove that one. So yeah, do you know? Let's put it in the comments there. Do you know the reference, if I can spell, of today's prompt? Prompter. Oh, I thought I knocked the camera over then. Oh, that was close. Spell things properly. Reference today's with the call squick. And then I'll put the word prompt in. And yeah, so I've got today's word is freeze. But I didn't want to do boring something like a bloody, like a boring old Ice Cube, and I didn't want to do the word, Frozen, the bloody Disney thing, because that's got enough. That's got enough hype for itself. I think there's another one coming out. I won't watch that one the same as I didn't watch the first one, because the friggin' tune of Frozen was in everybody's head, and it was everywhere for so bloody long that I hate that film, even though I haven't watched it. Just because of that tune. Let It Snow, or whatever. No, wait, I don't know what it is. But yeah, I'm not going to sing it because it'll be back in my head. Don't you dare put it in the comments. But today is Inktober, day 4. A reference freeze. Let's get some stuff on. As always, guys, I'm going to be listening to a comic in the background because I can't find an audiobook that's any good. I did have... like an audio queued up, and I really like 4 penguins, but it seemed a bit too informational and it was a little bit too boring to have on stream. So if we're going to be listening to some more Comic Story, and if you are a fan of those guys, there should be a link at the bottom. There probably isn't one, but there will be one. There will every day's thing I'll be listening to. I'll put a link into the description or the bio or somewhere down below in there. By tomorrow, guys, because I've had such a busy week, because yesterday was a busy day. Today's not so busy, but I still have a time limit, so I'm going to be trying to get this done by 3 o'clock, if not before. It is now going 12:51, so we'll see how fast I can get this one done, because we're doing everything in ink. I will put a little bit of colour in, because I think, why not? Towards the end, It brings the picture out a bit. I still don't know if you're allowed to put ink colouring into the picture. I'm pretty sure you can, but hey ho, it's the way I want to do it. So let's pull up a reference. Let's get that comment going. If I don't chat too much, guys, you can still leave me a comment. I'm still here, and yeah, you should be able to hear this in the background. Right. Comic story. We're going to be listening to Dr. or Mr. Freeze, but we're not drawing Mr. Freeze. I just thought, why not listen to some Batman stories with Mr. Freeze?
Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues, and I
let me know if you can hear this okay. If you can't, please let me know.
Then I read them dramatically back to you. Today we're going to be continuing Tom King's Batman. When we last left off, Batman thought he had finally found happiness. Batman was finally going to be a married man to Catwoman. But she left him because she decided that in order for Batman to be effective, he had to be sad. And if he was happy, he would kill Batman. Bruce has now been on an interesting journey trying to discover what makes Batman Batman. And today he's going to question, why does Gotham have its faith in Batman? This is Cold Days. When we last left off with Batman, he was almost going to be married to Catwoman. But she decided that in order for him to be Batman, he couldn't be happy, which has now left Batman wondering, should he be happy? Can he be happy? Is Batman even correct in what he does? As Bruce's limo pulls up to Gotham's courthouse, reporters swarm around him asking, what does he make of the situation? He waves to them as he heads up the steps, stating that he's just here to do his civic duty. Like a lot of them. He's a citizen of Gotham, too. But this case is a little different. It isn't about some random thug that he would be on the jury for. This trial is for Freeze, and how Batman brought him to justice. Or is it? The court goes through the juror selection, and just as Bruce thought, he was picked to attend the trial as juror number 4. The jurors head to their hotel rooms for the night, and they wake up bright and early for the first day of the trial. Freeze's lawyer tells the jurors that
first line.
Statement the
all in pen, no pencil.
The DA has is flimsy at best. There are only 3 dead women: Elizabeth, Maureen, and Christie. Tragic, but let me be clear. There is not one piece of evidence that the police have gathered. In fact, the coroner based all of this evidence collected by the city ruled that these women sadly suffered from a random blood clot that entered their brains. They died of natural causes. That was the ruling, not murder. That was until Batman came along. Jim Gordon takes the stand and the lawyer asks, so this case is all based on Batman's theory and not the city's theory that these women were killed by Freeze, correct? Jim says, well, yes, but. The lawyer speaks over him. Batman told you that there was a slight temperature drop in each of these women's brain stems, correct? Jim tells him yes. They were able to confirm that with an independent. The lawyer then speaks over him again, stating, yes, but that was after Batman had inspected the body, correct? And is Batman licensed to perform autopsies before the GCPD? Jim begins to get frustrated by the lawyer's wording, stating the coroner missed what, but the lawyer stops him, asking, please answer the question, Mr. Gordon. So Jim sighs and sits back, telling him no, Batman is not licensed. As the court breaks for lunch, Bruce sits with the other jurors as they sit and discuss their current situations with their families. And Bruce remains quiet. One of the women then says that her husband is going to be mad if they're going to be a while, and another woman says to tell her husband that if he wants a fight, he'll have to pick it with Batman. The table laughs, but Bruce gets up and excuses himself. As he stands in the men's room, he looks at one of the urinals and begins to rip it off the wall. He takes it and throws it against the other side of the men's room, and he screams. And soon after, the court resumes and Harvey Bullock is brought up for questioning. The lawyer asks when Mr. Freeze was found, there was a note pinned to him. It read, he did it, ask him. But there was no signature. Did the GCPD know where this note came from? Harvey says that no, there was no signature, but they knew who this came from. Next, Mr. Freeze himself takes a stand, and his lawyer says that he can, after the doctors had to revive him, right? And Freeze says yes. The lawyer then asks, what did he confess to? And Freeze tells him that he murdered 3 women as a part of an experiment. He has fought Batman many times before. He did not hesitate to admit that, but this time he was a different man that night. On the roof, he didn't care that he hadn't done it, that those women had nothing to do with him. Batman just kept hitting.
My meatball pizza.
Sorry guys, adverts.
Oh, waiter, your hottest chili oil, please.
I don't know if I should have done this first, or maybe I should have done this afterwards. Well, I'll make it work, you know I will. I'll try to at least.
And one of the jurors says that now that that's over, Seems pretty cut and dry. Any initial thoughts? Everyone begins to discuss times that Batman had saved the city, and even themselves. The juror then says, okay, seems pretty clear where we all stand. So let's take a vote on who thinks Mr. Freeze is guilty. Everyone begins to raise their hands, and the juror says, okay, since this needs to be unanimous, anyone think that he's not guilty? No one in the room raises their hands, except Bruce. One of the female jurors says, okay, then how about we go over the 3 key pieces of evidence? First, 3 deceased women all had lowered brain temperatures. That was the cause of death. The police missed it and Batman caught it, and then it was later confirmed by a third party. Secondly, the police found Mr. Freeze defeated by Batman while wearing his suit and in possession of his freeze gun, something his probation specifically prohibited. Third, and the most damning, he confessed to the police after he was caught. He said he was experimenting on the women, which was a part of his plan to revive his wife. Everyone else begins to call out that there's no way that this couldn't have been Freeze. So how about they hurry this up and just go home? Considering some of them have actual jobs and they don't live a playboy lifestyle, Mr. Wayne, this should already be over. The facts are the facts. It's what happened. Isn't that enough? Bruce leans back and he says, no, that's not enough. There are 3 facts. I don't disagree with them, but maybe we need more context. Why don't we go over these 3 facts, each in turn, and give the context? Give me an hour or 2. And at the end, if we're still here, I'll change my vote. Fair? One of the female jurors says that that's fair, better than a hanging jury. How about they take a 5-minute break? When they get back, they'll get started. Once everyone leaves and comes back, Bruce goes over the moment in the trial when Jim took the stand. He wasn't happy about how clearly the lawyer pointed out that his own people didn't catch it. Then comes along Batman. Hours later, they re-examine the bodies. At that point, Batman noticed the temperatures and he saw that 3 women around the age of Freeze's wife, all killed in a manner that suggests an experiment. Batman made his own conclusions, which are now the police's conclusions, and he starts his hunt. Question is, why did the GCPD miss something that Batman caught? One of the jurors says that that's because Batman is Batman. He's better than the GCPD. He just does it better, right? And Bruce says, right. But maybe there's something else. These women, what if they died because of the clots, and later someone created the remnants of a decrease in temperature? Your explanation is that Batman saw something that Gordon's people didn't. Why did Gordon miss it? Why did Batman catch it? Bruce slams his fist down, shouting, why? You're convicting a man on assumptions. If there are alternative assumptions that make just as much sense, then what is the actual simplest explanation that actually makes sense? The coroner was good. Gordon confirmed it. He should have seen it. So maybe the coroner missed something that wasn't there. And maybe Batman says it because it was. But if it wasn't there, then Freeze didn't do it. And Batman went after the wrong man. Then there's the costume. Freeze claimed on the stand that he was told by an underground source, whom he refuses to name, that he was told that Batman was coming for him. So he went for his costume, rebuilt his freeze gun, and he risked his parole going back to Arkham because he's afraid of Batman. So he leaves his house, where he's under house arrest, to basically find Batman before Batman can find him, to defend himself, so he says. Another juror says that it's all bullcrap. He was up to something. If he was scared of Batman, he should have stayed in his house. But Bruce tells him, because a guilty man runs. He should have let Batman come to him to talk to him about the crime. But have we actually ever seen anyone talk to Batman? For years, these two have been fighting, not talking, fighting. The prosecutor, not even in the defense, noted this. We've seen pictures. Freeze has had dozens of plans for Gotham, and all of them have ended the same way. A punch, a kick, a knockout blow. Now Freeze gets information that Batman suspects him again. What do you expect Freeze to do? To wait? To talk to Batman? They don't talk. What evidence did Freeze have that Batman was coming over for a friendly chat and not another fight? We're here to convict.
Sorry, guys. Another advert.
A man beyond reasonable doubt. We can't convict him of putting on his suit, not if we doubt that Freeze is lying about the information. Finally, his confession. If Freeze was so scared of Batman, why did he confess and keep confessing? Long after the threat was gone. Why? When I was young, a man killed my mother and my father. We were coming out of the movies when a man with a gun appeared. My father shouted and the man shot him. He then tried to take my mother's pearls and they got tangled up, so he shot her. I watched. The man ran, and when I fell to my knees, I screamed. As time went on, I tried to reach the very top.
Builders haven't come back and haven't given my good pen.
And even had love. But then something happened. You lose something, and then you're 10 again, screaming for your parents. You would do anything to get away from the fright. What Batman did to Freeze, that level of violence, that cruelty, it didn't leave when Batman left. It stayed, and after that, Freeze said it himself. He wanted to get the hell out of there. This confession is after the beating. Whatever Freeze said, whoever Freeze said it to, that confession doesn't mean a damn thing. One of the jurors stands up and says that she can tell what he's trying to do. He wants them to doubt each one of the three pieces of evidence. Have them believe that Batman was wrong, bad, incompetent, horrible, or out of control. He's saying that Batman is not the hero that they Gotham think he is. Now, if he wants them to go along with that theory, he's going to need to prove it. Can he really, truly prove that? Bruce stares at the woman and tells her, yes, I can. He points at her blouse. And he says, I notice you're wearing a cross. The woman says that she believes in God, attended church for 20 years. Is that a problem, Mr. Wayne? Bruce tells her no, never. But you've asked me here to show you today that Batman could have made a mistake, that perhaps that mistake has led to Freeze being falsely accused. So I find your cross, your belief, interesting, vital perhaps. The woman asks, do you believe in God, Mr. Wayne? Bruce tells her, yes. That's just it. I used to. My father was a Christian. I believe that the Lord would protect him. Talked about things that we could control, the things that we can't. Later after that, I was upset. I put aside believing in a deity and started believing in something that could save my father. So I left Gotham for a while, searched for something to put my faith in. But ultimately, I couldn't find anything. Instead of looking for something to believe, I wanted for something to come and find me. We all live here, and we all know that this is a place for monsters, for demons. There he is. Every shadow is met, every horror put down. As citizens of Gotham, we watch as Batman beats back at the bullies. A man with a bat on his chest is keeping us safe. After my parents died, I saw transcendence. I found Batman. The woman then asks, your argument for why Batman may have made mistakes with Freeze is because you think Batman is God? And Bruce says, if we define God as the infallible, the responsible, the one who determines life and death, then yes, that would be my argument. I thought Batman was God. How many of you here are here because of Batman? Without his help in this city, how many of you would be in a grace? All of the jurors remain quiet, and all of them raise their hand, including Bruce. Bruce goes on stating, based on that belief, you have no right to sit here and judge of Batman. He is
Okay,
perfect,
I'm gonna
you
stop
are
there.
not.
Can you guess
Your
what it is?
lives are his, and you worship him.
If you're
You
a child of the
let Freeze
90s,
go
you
and
will.
rot and ignore any doubt, all because
Or if you're a
Batman
fan of
decided his will is your law.
a
God is above
particular
you, he wears
person.
a cape. You trust him and trust that he was right and he's so good.
Very funny
he's
actor.
the world's greatest detective, right? Bruce walks over to a cup of water and after taking a drink, he looks back asking, who are you? He takes a seat asking everyone, have any of you have read the book of Job? Because that's what God said to him, right? God tore this man's life away, burned his farm and his children. And Job gets angry and asks God why. And God tells him, I created the mountains and the miracles, and you're questioning me. You. Who are you? Bruce hangs his head, stating, I was hurt recently. I had for years put every fiber of my being into Batman because he was good. Good enough to protect me from all of the pain. My mother, my father, this city, my life, everything. It worked. After many years, I had something that I never thought I could have, and I was happy. Then it all fell. Everything falls. And so did I. I screamed as loud as I could. My scream was a prayer.
Okay, we're gonna have a
Did you wash your
Mr.
hands?
Advertisements, because we're listening to this one.
if they're a heavy, they're a heavy.
I fell and I
um,
begged.
what's
And
the
now I'm
words?
still waiting. And I'll always be waiting.
They have lots of
Batman
adverts
is
filled
not
because they're a
God.
company
He tries,
that
but he
reads these out.
fails, and then he tries again, but he can't.
They
He does
fund
not
themselves
provide
with
solace from pain. He does not give you an eternity.
advertisement.
He cannot comfort you for the love you've lost. God blessed your souls with grace. Batman punches people in the face. The 12 of you sit here with power over Freeze's freedom. That is godlike power. You know still that you yourselves are not sovereign, that you are righteously constrained by your own humanity. You must approach this sacred task with some humility, knowing that your wisdom will forever be scarred by your perspective. You know that, and you know him. He's not perfect. He's just you, but in a leather bat suit. Your decision here must be made beyond a reasonable doubt. And the facts show that we doubt Batman, and therefore we doubt this case. So my argument is this: no matter what he does, behind the cape, behind the cowl, the bat and everything, he is a damn person. And because he is a person, a man, Batman can make mistakes. We are not Job talking to God. We are the citizens of the city speaking to another citizen. However good he is, we can be just as good. However flawed he is, we can be just as flawed. Don't turn Batman's mistakes into a damnation of an innocent man. If you condemn Freeze for Batman's error, you condemn Batman. You say guilty, and you put the bat into the same cold cage. You all raised your hands when asked if he saved you. Now it's your time to save him. And so, the jurors take another vote, and it was unanimous. Freeze was set free. As Bruce leaves the court, he talks to Alfred, stating that he's going out. Prepare the original suit. He doesn't want to wear the suit that he was in when Alfred tells him yes. Bruce then says that he needs to get back to he is lost. He needs to remember who he is, who Batman is. And there you have it. What do you think in the comments below? Do you think Batman is a god? Do you think Batman is infallible? That was the whole point of this. Do the people of Gotham trust in Batman because he's basically a god to them? Well, I have a friend from another channel known as Comic Pop that I'd love to get his opinion on this because he loves Batman almost as much as me. I'm definitely a bigger Batman fan. I have tattoos. Okay. Now, what did you think about Cold Days, the Tom King run with the trial for Mr. Freeze?
I actually
We gotta get closer. We gotta get closer.
I actually loved Cold Days. It was a really great return to kind of street level Batman.
Yeah.
We got a glimpse at Mr. Freeze. We didn't get too much of Mr. Freeze, but it was
No.
pretty dope.
That is
And
a scared Mr. Freeze.
exactly. And more unhinged Batman.
Yes.
Which was also really fun to see. And I really liked the interplay between Batman or Bruce Wayne and the jurors,
Yeah.
and just
He
getting
was like
into the-
accusing himself,
Yeah,
basically.
he's putting himself on trial.
Yeah, why do you trust me? But without
Exactly.
saying me.
Exactly, and he needs an unbiased opinion because
Yeah.
you just ask Alfred.
Albert, am I a god? Yes, that's Bruce.
You pay the bills. What am I going to say?
Matter of fact, you were the god of knowledge at one point.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like Albert the Chronicler continuity. But yeah, I dug it. I loved it, and I think that the people that Gotham trust Batman because he is always there. He's like an elemental force. When they see that light in the sky, they know he's there watching over them, even if he's not physically there right now. He's always got something going on.
I could see that. If I knew that no matter what, there would be a guy dressed in a bat to save me. I need you a little bit more than
Well, I mean, that's the difference with Batman. Like, he's supposed to not only does he also make criminals think that he's everywhere at once, but the regular citizenry of Gotham are like, yeah, he's there watching over me. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Oh, I would confirm. If Batman existed in like New York, I would walk down every dark alley at night hoping he'd save me.
Right? Oh, yeah. Or at least just looking for battery.
Yeah, who is there battering over here?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story right here. Don't forget to subscribe because next week we're going to be covering the next storyline.
Wake the children.
After another advertisement.
I'm awake.
That breaks Batman down even further. The death of a close friend. So,
Yeah, that's
don't forget to
something
subscribe. Give
different.
this
So
video
we'll
a like
go,
if you enjoy it. And if you want to get more of Sal's opinions on comics, because that's what he does in
we'll
his
go
channel.
to Mr. Freeze now and find out a little bit more about Mr. Freeze.
Welcome to We Love Comics More Than I Want and Nintendo Switch for Christmas. I'm your host, Eris Quinones. First and foremost, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone.
Forget that, there's
Hope
no
you all are
games.
having a fun and safe holiday season. And since it's the Christmas
shut up.
season, this
The wrong
means
time of
it's
year.
winter,
Shut
which
up.
also means it's cold, which has me
Yes.
wanting to do an episode on
getting
a character
cold.
that reflects the weather
Freeze.
because why not? It just makes sense. So today we're giving you the history of Mr.
I'm
Freeze,
licking
one of
my pen.
Batman's
It's
greatest villains,
running out. I'm going to have
as
to get
well
another
as
one
of
over
the
the
most
weekend.
complex, as he's
We're
not
ready
really a
tomorrow.
villain per se, but I'll get more into that in the episode.
There'll be another
For
drawing
now,
tomorrow.
let's take a look
Because
at
we're
that
doing
sweet
a drawing
history of
every single day this month.
Mr. Freeze, or Mr. Zero, as he was originally called, first appeared in Batman issue 121 in February of 1959. He was created by Bob Kane, David Wood, and Sheldon Moldoff. Funny enough, 2 years earlier, a Mr. Freeze appeared in Black Hawk issue 117 in 1957. The cover even said, featuring the fantastic Mr. Freeze. Now, this was a completely different Mr. Freeze and just a one-off villain they made for that issue, and not the one we know and love today. Plus, at the time, the Mr. Freeze we all know and love was called Mr. Zero. He didn't go by Mr. Freeze until the 66 Batman series decided to rename him from Mr. Zero to Mr. Freeze for the TV show. Because of the popularity of the 66 Batman TV series, the name stuck, and the rest was history. But now let's take a look at his comic book origin. Mr. Freeze's original origin is pretty straightforward. Back when he was still called Mr. Zero, we find out in Batman 121 that he was a rogue scientist who became a victim of an unfortunate accident. One day when he was working on an ice gun that he created, the freezing solution he invented slipped out of his hand and covered his whole body. Because of this, he could now only survive in extremely cold temperatures. So he built himself a special suit that kept his body at sub-zero temperatures, so he could still commit his crimes. Now, even though he had his iconic freeze gun and suit that kept him alive back then, he was still a very campy character. I mean, his lime green and pink costume says it all. He was kind of along the lines of Killer Moth at the time. It wasn't until post-crisis continuity that Mr. Freeze would get the origin we all know and love today, thanks to Paul Dini in the Batman animated series episode he wrote, Heart of Ice. Like several of the best things in Batman's comic book mythos, Mr. Freeze's modern origin was taken from Batman the Animated Series. To many, including me, Batman the Animated Series is considered to be the definitive version of Batman, and it's not hard to see why. I've said it many times on the show, without Batman the Animated Series, I wouldn't have gotten into comic books. So it holds a very special place in my nerdy heart. Anyway, let's start talking about his modern comic book origin, which did differ a little bit from Paul Dini's Heart of Ice episode, but not much. It basically just kind of expanded on it a bit more. Once DC Comics decided to make Mr. Freeze's Heart of Ice origin officially part of comic book continuity, they got none other than the man himself, Paul Dini, to write the comic Batman Mr. Freeze, which officially introduced Mr. Freeze's new origin into the comics. In the comic, we see that as a young boy, Victor Freeze wasn't fascinated with cars or action figures like most boys. Nope, he was obsessed with cryonics, which is a fancy word for low temperature preservation. Because of this, he started his hobby of freezing animals alive as he wanted them to stay safe and beautiful forever, which I gotta say has a Norman Bates, Michael Myers thing going on. Kind of creepy. His parents, horrified by his odd obsession, sent him to a very strict boarding school.
You get the reference now.
Was miserable and felt detached from all humanity, which I'm not a genius by any means, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that school is probably having the opposite effect you'd want to have on him. But don't worry, things started looking up for Victor when he met the love of his life in college, Nora, who of course he eventually married. Now you know how I literally just said don't worry, things started looking up for Freeze? Well, it did, but not for long. Less than a year after marrying Nora, she became sick and was dying. In a desperate attempt to save his wife's life, he began to work at Goth Corp, run by the evil Ferris Boyle. Since Freeze couldn't find a cure fast enough for Nora, he finds a way to place her in cryostasis to keep her from getting any worse. Sometime later, when Ferris finds out that Freeze is still working on cryogenics, which Ferris suspended work on a while ago because it put him $3 million in debt. Because of this, Ferris goes in with several security guards to stop Freeze personally. But Victor takes a gun from a security guard and points it at Ferris, saying no, stay away from her. Her being his wife, who he's preserving via cryogenics. Victor standing up to his evil boss doesn't go well and leads to gunfire and chaos going on in the lab, which of course leads to chemicals and pouring all over Victor as he's trying to save his life. Of course, Ferris and his goons manage to get away in time, but again, not poor Victor. As we all know, Victor does survive the accident, but the chemicals that poured all over him lowered his body temperature to the point that he could only survive in sub-zero temperatures. So he made a cryogenic suit in order to survive, along with his freeze or ice gun, to get revenge on those responsible for his wife's death, and becomes Mr. Freeze. But guess what? When he goes to get revenge on Ferris Boyle as Mr. Freeze, Ferris is like, wait, listen to me. We can make a deal. Your wife, we saved her body. Let me go, and she's yours. But Freeze is all like, she's mine already, Boyle, as is your worthless life. But of course, right after this, Batman comes in to stop Mr. Freeze. Over the years, Batman and Mr. Freeze have faced off many times, mainly due to Freeze stealing diamonds to power his cryosuit, which keeps him alive, and to afford the equipment needed to find a cure for his wife. So again, he's technically a villain because he steals and does crimes, but he only does all of it to find a cure for his beloved wife. He doesn't steal or do criminal acts for greed, fame, or fortune, or because he's some psycho killer. He just wants to bring his wife back. His motivation is incredibly sad, and it definitely sets him apart from other villains in Batman's rogues gallery. Now, oddly enough, Mr. Freeze hasn't appeared in that many major story arcs over the years. He mainly just appears in Batman comics every now and again, but nothing too major like the Joker having death in the family, the Killing Joke, Endgame, and so on and so forth. He's actually a character I would like to see utilized a little more. With that said, though, it's not like Mr. Freeze doesn't do anything in the comics, because that wouldn't be farther from the truth. He's the one responsible for making a cryogenic machine for Hush, so that Hush could take revenge on Batman. During the crossover War Games, Freeze is brought in by a rival gang to kill several members of the Mafia in retaliation for attacking their family members. He agreed to do this because they were like, yo, we'll give you diamonds, which of course he needs to power his suit so that he can stay alive and find a cure for his wife. Freeze also briefly worked for the Black Mask when the Red Hood was causing all sorts of trouble in the Gotham underworld. And then in Battle for the Cowl, Freeze captured Jim Gordon because, well, Batman was thought to be dead at the time. But of course, Jim and the GCPD defeat him in the end and send him to Iron Heights because Arkham was being rebuilt at the time. The story was really cool because it was just like, oh no, what's Mr. Freeze gonna do now that Batman's not around to stop him? Then skipping some stuff here and there, we have the New 52, where during the Night of Owls crossover, the Court of Owls sent the Talons, who are assassins, to kill 40 of the most important people in Gotham. And guess who was on that list? Mr. Freeze. But the Red Hood and the Outlaws saved him. He was also given a new origin in the New 52, which I was like, why the heck would you change the Paul Dini origin, which was so perfect? In this new origin, Victor becomes obsessed with cryonics when his mom fell through a frozen lake. The ice preserved her long enough till help came, which sparked his obsession. Also in this origin, Nora was not his wife, Instead, she was a woman born in 1943, and when she was 23, she was diagnosed with an incurable heart disease. Because of this, her family put her in cryogenic stasis, hoping that they would find a cure for her in the future. Freeze would learn about her and become obsessed with her, even falling in love with Nora, dedicating his life to finding a cure for her. And then, of course, one day, after a lab accident, chemicals fell all over him and he became Mr. Freeze. As for DC Rebirth, he's appeared in Scott Snyder's All-Star Batman, issue 6 to be exact, where Batman travels to Alaska to confront Mr. Freeze, as he attempts to extract the world's oldest ice core and bring humanity to a new ice age. But now, my friends, on to powers and abilities. Mr. Freeze's main weapon is his cold/freeze gun. As the name suggests, it's capable of creating ice to freeze people or objects. Victor is a genius and an expert in the field of cryogenics. His cryosuit also gives him increased strength and durability. And because of the experimental coolants and chemicals that fell on him that were meant to preserve life, his aging process was greatly decreased, basically making him immortal. And fun fact, his helmet is bulletproof. I just figured I'd throw that one in there because there's not a whole lot to say about his powers and abilities, so his helmet is bulletproof. As for good Mr. Freeze stories, read Batman Mr. Freeze, All-Star Batman issue 6, Gotham Central issues 1 through 2, A Cold Day in Hell and Battle for the Cowl, Commissioner Gordon 1, Cold Case and Batman Legends of the Dark Knight issues 201 through 203, and not a reading recommendation, but watch the Heart of Ice episode from Batman the Animated Series. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Variant My Comic Conrads. But remember to go to variantcomics.com to keep up with the show and all things comic related. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics.
I can't draw guns. And I can't draw hands draw holding guns. So I do apologize that that's crap. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. I can't draw guns or hands. I don't do them. I don't draw guns ever, and I draw hands well. I do them larger.
It's definitely no secret that Batman is
So I'm gonna add it. We've had that one. We're gonna listen to something else about Mr. Freeze. Hopefully,
When they start to kill me.
it'll be another comic historian. That's what I've clicked anyway.
We gotta move.
Reporting from Arkham Asylum.
Oh
This
God,
is
no,
Gotham
this one.
Rogues.
Not him. Not him, Mr. Freeze. No, you're Gotham. The Freeze. Sorry, let's have that one. Let's have the Arkham story. I think I'm really pretty much done. Nah, I'm only joking. I've got loads of details to put in there yet. But have you figured out the reference yet? Cold, Cold Heart we're listening to.
People caring for people. Compassion. That's the foundation Gotham was built on. And I have proudly built Golf Corp on that same foundation. That's why we're called the People Company. Thank you so much. Please.
Mr. Boyle seems to be after your title as Gotham's biggest philanthropic industrialist.
Gotham needs more people like him.
Bruce,
Hey,
I am blown away by your support.
it's well deserved. You're going to change the world, Ferris.
Hey, we'll change it together, right?
Pardon me, Mr. Boyle. Press is waiting. This way,
I'd
please.
say the future is looking very, very bright for Gotham. Now, it's almost midnight, and you all know what that means. Let's get this New Year's Eve party going with them. Get to pay your heating bill, Bruce.
Do you get the reference, guys? I'm going to turn that. I don't know if I want to listen to watch that.
Alfred, where's Ferris? Alfred. To get you out of here.
I heard about you. I have no quarrel with you.
Then you crashed the wrong party.
Freeze? What do you want with me? I just require a moment of your time. Let me go! Help me!
It's go, boys. You come out.
Sure thing, boss. Give me foil or I'll freeze this entire room.
I can be involved. Lawyer's got the truth, you. And I ain't giving him up. Yes, I'll get what he's giving you.
What's behind this door is of no interest to you.
What I think is the weapon done with proof. I know you're holding out on me.
This will not end well.
I think you're confused about what exactly is about to happen. As soon as you show the technique visible, my force will go up. And if that's it, I'll be sure to blow your princess too. Right out of this stuff what it is. Right.
Just got
Get what I was from. I ain't got nothing to do with getting what I want.
I don't want to hurt you, but I will.
Bloody. You're supposed to be the genius, aren't you? And you think you can outmuscle me? Have a look around.
This was not the deal we made.
Yes, so soon. After you get what's on that back room.
Nah, it's not going to be any good. Try that.
There's a deadly virus being spread across the entire world. It's the end of the world, and there's one man that can stop it. Batman. Welcome to the Complete Story series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues, and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then, I read them dramatically back to you. All to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, let's get on with the show, because I'm Batman. "300 miles north of the Arctic Circle, Batman walks through the blistering blizzard. After finally reaching the research facility that he's
That's a bit better.
he holds out his arms as thrusters fire up. As the ice melts away off the door, Bruce kicks it in, and he heads inside. He shouts the name Victor, and no one responds. He looks around to see the researchers caught in a sudden blast, giving them no time to even prepare themselves. And then there's a shriek that pierces the silence. From the darkness, several set eyes focus on Batman. And Batman once again calls out to Victor, asking him, "What have you done?" Those eyes in the darkness begin to move closer, and the frozen creatures begin to walk out of the shadows. As they surround Batman, he tries to hold off as many as he can, but just four appear. "Welcome, Batman, to the top of the world," Freeze says, leading more of the frozen creatures. The creatures begin to take apart Batman's suit, and Batman calls out for him not to do it. "I'm only come to talk." Freeze tells him, "Sure, that's why you came. That's why you're wearing a suit full of weapons to kill what's here, what's alive in the ice." The creatures follow Freeze to the core of the facility, and Batman tells him to just listen. There's a squadron coming, some new division. They're going to incinerate this place. Without listening, Freeze goes on asking Batman, "Do you know who these people are up here? They are my new friends. They are the Dreaming. These people were those that were sleeping on ice, held in cryogenic stasis, waiting to be reborn. A few months ago, I started to wake them up, though using an imperfect but viable technology, so that they could become a part of my army. They would help me steal what I needed to continue my research so that I may eventually perfect the techniques and revive my dear Nora. After listening to those that I had awoken, I learned that these people had put faith in the cradling ice so that they could wake up and a better world. That's when I understood it. I couldn't wake Nora into this polluted, overrun world. Batman tells him, "You're planning to unfreeze a deadly bacteria that'll start a necrosis in plants, animals, and even humans. It will kill everyone on Earth." And Freeze tells Batman, "I'm sorry, but I disagree. When the bomb falls, it will melt the ice core and release the virus. However, we will be safe inside of our chambers." He then puts Batman into a cryogenic pod and he tells him, "Good night." Batman calls out to him over and over, but within seconds, the gas fills the pod and he falls asleep. Now, with Batman taken care of, Freeze can see it. The bomb dropping, his ice creatures with him, Nora with him. And then there's something that he sees. He sees a bat. No. What he sees is hot death. Freeze watches as Batman crawls out of the pod, skin blistering, asking, "What did you do?" And as he tackles and touches Batman's skin, he knows it's bats. Bats are the most effective carriers of disease because of heat, surviving what would normally kill them. And now this man carried a virus hidden in his blood so that when his skin was exposed, it would become airborne. Batman beats down on Freeze. All the while, he screams for him to stop, and Batman doesn't listen. Freeze shouts that he can hear Nora screaming for him, but it's not Nora. It's the sound of planes passing by and dropping bombs. Batman throws Freeze into a cryogenic pod, and then he hops in, closing the door, snapping the handle off. The bombs fall, they burn the facility in the ice, and Freeze screams. He screams loud. He screams until his throat burns. Later, over in Death Valley at the Nevada border, Dr. Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy, makes the same drive that she's made for the past 5 years. She pulls up to an old tree. She gets up saying, "Hello, partner." She undresses down to her suit, and she takes dirt from the tree, telling the tree that she's excited to be back.
Do you get the reference?
To get to work. After bringing to
Now.
life the old tree, she sets up her tent to continue her research, and there's a sound coming from the outside. She pulls back on the tent opening and sees Batman walking towards her, and she shouts, "No! You need to get out of here! You need to get the hell!" The vines shoot out, grabbing Batman, but before they can, he disappears. Ivy feels his presence behind her, and she asks, "Why are you here? Fight?" The vines lash out, grabbing Batman by the arms and the throat, and he tells her, "No, I'm here to ask for your help." A short while later, she looks over her file, asking, "Who is this?" Batman tells her that the little girl's name is Lilith Sergio, age 14. 13 hours ago, she went to the woods and she came out infected with something. She then looks at the slide under a microscope and says that it's a cruel worm. Where did it come from? Batman struggles to the vines, saying that it's an ancient bacteria that Freeze let loose. He thought that he stopped it, but somehow Lilith came in contact with it, and the vines tighten around his neck, and Ivy tells him, "You're keeping something from me." Batman continues, telling her, "I went to stop Freeze. There was a strike force after him. They've been tracking him longer than I suspected, and I don't know who they are, but they're coming to take you down. They've gotten a wind of this tree and the things that you've been pulling out of it, biological weapons, and they see the virus as you using its flora." The vines tighten again, and Ivy says, "You're still hiding something." Batman tries to say, "Lilith is running out of time." The vines pull, and Ivy leans in, telling him, "No, she's already dead, isn't she?" The speed of this growth, the girl must have died about 13 hours ago. They incinerated her just as you arrived, right? Batman remains silent, and Ivy goes on saying, "It must be spreading too. It's been loose for what, 7 hours? Raging through rural Washington, stretching out, and now they want a cure? The story of the little girl was to win over my sympathy, wasn't it?" Batman then says, "She died less than an hour ago. They're naming the plague after her. It's called Lily's Cradle. If you don't act soon." Ivy leans in and she kisses Batman, and the vines shoot out from the tent, and Ivy says, "They have come. Don't let them get to me." Through Ivy's kiss, Batman tells her, "I'm a person who will not let them get to you." The vines whip out, swinging at the invisible soldiers, and Batman calls out that they're wearing quantum stealth. As the two fight off, Batman begins to think about the tech, and he realizes who the tech is coming from. He grabs one of the men, demanding, "How did you get it? Who sent you after me?" Before the soldier can answer, another two throw a net over Ivy, and they ready a flamethrower. The soldier fires off the flamethrower, and Bruce stops the two before they can burn Ivy. She pulls the net off, saying, "That was good work. Now we have to hurt these men so that they'll never..." And Batman stops her, telling her, "They're not aiming for you." And Ivy gasps. The two watch as the old tree burns, and Ivy says all of her work gone. Batman reaches out to her, and she shouts at him, "Just get the hell out of here!" Batman then says, "I'm sorry," as he pulls the wax lips off of his face. Ivy asks, "I wasn't controlling you? Why did you fight for me?" Batman turns to walk away, and he says, "I was fighting for Pamela Isley and for Lilith, and I'm sorry that I was too late." The vines curl out, and they hold out a flower, and Ivy says that they can create an agent from this. It will destroy the spore without harming the host. Batman tells her, "Thank you," and Ivy tells him, "One last thing. Don't let them name the disease after Lilith, or I will let loose something worse than Freeze. Make sure you clear that girl's name." Later in Mississippi Delta, Batman walks out of the swamp, thinking back to when he first met Jervis Tetch, the man known as the Mad Hatter. The first time meeting the Mad Hatter, he was late, but this time, the Mad Hatter won't see it coming. It's been a month since Freeze released a spore into the atmosphere, and since they found a cure using Poison Ivy's flower, the resulting halted the Death Patch. But now this strike force has a name. It's the Blackhawks, and they are a long-vanished strike force known for taking down apocalyptic threats. The armor that they use is more than just camouflage. It literally convinces the brain that... what you're seeing is not there. Duke stayed behind to watch over the patch and make sure the cure held, and an hour ago, Duke went missing. Just then, a net is thrown over Batman and he can hear voices that he knows. He looks up to see Kate Kane, Dick Grayson, and Jason Todd. Kate says that she has information. Batman says, of course, I will listen. Before she can talk, Batman throws a battering past her, electrocuting her. Batman then gets up from the net, throwing his cape onto Jason, and he starts to wrap it around a tree. Dick jumps in, and Batman uses a flamingo and bashes it across Dick's face. He then leans down, ripping the costume off of Dick's chest, and he sees the Blackhawks insignia. He thinks that if they were really his friends, they would actually know how to fight. He then looks at the flamingos, and he sees them all staring at him, and they begin to open up. And he thinks that the Mad Hatter had actually been watching him this whole time. It doesn't take long for Batman to get into the Mad Hatter's mansion, walking by all the hats that he has created. When Batman looks up the stage, there stands the Mad Hatter, thinking that Batman doesn't see him, but it doesn't matter. He's already taken the blockers so that he can see the truth. Without saying a word, he jumps up on the stage, grabbing the Mad Hatter and slamming him into the wall. The Mad Hatter giggles, saying, just so you know, I'm not the one behind all of this. There's actually someone who is behind everything. Batman grabs the Mad Hatter, holding him off the stage, telling him, I've already planted explosives all over this place, and I'm going to set them off. If I don't get, the Mad Hatter laughs, pulling out a hat, telling him, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Batman thinks back. That was the hat that he was wearing when they first met. Batman takes the hat, and he throws it, telling himself, you're just trying to trick me. But it doesn't work. Batman begins to see the room change. He grabs the Mad Hatter by the face, shouting, this isn't real! And then Batman turns to see all the villains that he's fought in the past. The Mad Hatter tells him, they're going to end this. And inside Batman's mind, he begins to fight off everyone, trying to break free. And as he does, he finds himself strapped to a chair. The Mad Hatter asks if he wants to see the other side. If he wants to see himself in a wheelchair with Alfred. The Mad Hatter tells him to go ahead. Hand it over, just give it to him. And Batman struggles as he listens, telling him, no, I will not. Just then the button is pressed and an explosion goes off. Batman breaks out of the chair and he runs into the past villains. As he fights them, the Blackhawk soldiers begin to appear. And another explosion goes off, knocking everyone to the ground. The Mad Hatter jumps on Batman's back to strangle him. And as the third explosion goes off, it throws the two of them out into the swamp. Batman gets up and he stands over the Mad Hatter as he tries to talk. So Batman steps on his head, pushing him into the water. A few moments pass and Batman lets the Mad Hatter up. And he begins to talk about who is behind this and why they are behind it all. After getting what he needed, Batman headed to Washington, D.C., straight to the Washington Monument. He shouts for Alfred that he has no GPS, no weapons, and they have 19 minutes before the Blackhawks put a bullet in Duke's head. Alfred tries to secure a route, and as the helicopters fire down on him, Batman shouts, forget it, I'll direct myself. And then he calls out over the radio that whoever is listening, they need to respond. Up in the monument, two men walk towards a window, and one says that they've been trying to reach him. The other man says to just go ahead and patch him through. The first man hands over the phone, and Batman's voice comes across asking, are you there? The second man says, I am. Now tell me a story of the end of the world, Bruce. Batman shouts, it was you from the beginning, wasn't it? Just playing me from the start. You commissioned tech for the Blackhawks, you got Freeze into the facility, you burned Ivy's research, and now the end of the world with a death spot. As the man aims the rifle, he tells Batman, tell me quickly, what is it that you want to hear? Just at first, Batman remains silent, and then he says, I found David. The rifle goes off and the bullet shoots past through a bike's tire, throwing Batman off into the lake below. The man says at first he saw the monument as a great sword for his homeland, and now he sees that it's a pen. And tonight, it writes the story of Ra's al Ghul. Ubu says that it's 9 minutes until activation, and Ra's tells him, look at them all, and says that they should toast early. It's the label that makes this vintage so expensive. But before Ra's turns back, the bottle is thrown, hitting Ra's in the head, and Batman looks down, telling him, cheers. Ra's looks up, telling him, I'm going to guess that one of the people that I shot was my mistresses. Using my own tech against me, huh? Ra's then starts to get back up, telling him, it's amazing, isn't it? My little monster. Batman tells him, what I found in the Hatter tech was no monster. It's a DMN, disruptive, multilingual, and nanoprocessor. Every player has been after one this powerful for years, easy to slip into any circuit board and take them over. So my question is, what happened? This kind of thing is nothing like you. Roz pulls out a sword from his
You get a
cane. As he
reference?
gets closer, Batman throws his
Nah.
body into the display case. As Batman picks up a musket from the shattered case, he says, everyone outside is in a panic and terrified. They don't know who to blame, and they're on the brink of hysteria. So no, I'm not here for a stupid duel. I'm here to bring you down, even if I have to bust this musket over your head. Roz swings his sword, cutting away at Batman, telling him, there was a demon for every penny. But you know who's the greatest demon of them all? Batman. A giant man-bat swoops down, grabbing Batman through the window and pulling him out. Roz tells him, it's time for me to take the damn title back. Roz then presses a button and Batman shouts, asking, what did you just do? Roz says that I sent a signal. Right now, oscillators are bursting in every power plant in Theria, causing a meltdown. Electromagnets are malfunctioning across East Asia, causing millions of deaths. And pumps all across Russia are exploding, destroying oil and causing an economic ruin. Everyone is asking who to blame, but no one knows. And that's the genius of it, Dark Knight. Batman pulls himself back up, shouting to the Blackhawks to move in. And Roz laughs, telling him, there are no Blackhawks. They're just a team of my assassins in disguise. Batman begs for Roz to stop the signal, but Roz tells him, this is not a Batman story, no matter how it looks. Roz takes aim with the rifle and he fires, hitting Batman in the temple. As his body falls, Roz tells Ubu to go ahead and have Duke killed. Down below, the people begin to riot, and Roz says that this is perfect. Just as Roz enjoys his moment of victory, Batman begins to stand back up, and Roz asks him, how are you alive? As Batman's face begins to heal and reconstruct itself, he tells him, everything that you think just happened across the world, well, it didn't happen. The bottle you hit me with earlier, the label was Hatter Tech, and with the Hatter toxin enhanced with the pheromones from Ivy, and frozen for time release with Freeze Tech. So for the last minute, I've been stopping your signal, and Alfred has been putting out an alert with all of your plans. What you've been staring at was a light, because like it or not, this is a Batman story. One of the man-bats flies down grabbing Roz, and Roz shouts, the world will end the way I said it will! Batman tries to chase after him, and as he jumps, the man-bat flies off, leaving Batman to fall. Batman thinks to himself that it will begin again with something small, most likely a single phone going black, and it will start again. Just before hitting the ground, a soldier swings by, grabbing Batman by the ankle, and as they set him down, Batman sees the Blackhawks insignia. The soldier waves, saying, we'll be watching, and Batman shrugs, stating, I guess they are real. As he walks off, Duke radios in asking if everything's all right, and Batman tells him, yeah, but Roz escaped with his flying monkeys. A passerby sees Batman, takes out her phone, and snaps a picture. And as Batman walks off, her phone suddenly goes black.
I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Now that he saved the day, it's time for the light to be brought in and shine upon my beautiful face. And Dan's. Anyway, click the video right here if you want to see more here at Comic Storian. It's recommended by YouTube, and I don't believe it's valid. Over here is going to be the Batman Complete Story. And if you click where Dan's head is right now, that will allow you to subscribe to the channel. And you can remove Dan and fire him. If enough of you subscribe through this channel, we will fire Dan. What do you think about that, Dan?
No, I can't win that argument.
Embark on an all-new journey using your whole body. Ring Fit.
Really suggesting the colour, as always. I don't want to put loads of colour and didn't colour
What
it in,
if
basically. Because
Superman
I'm trying
and
to
Batman
defense the idea of
weren't born
using
to their
just
proper
pen.
parents?
And
What if they were evil
Just a second.
and conquered the world? That's the storyline we're going to be covering today. Now, it's an
Just
older
pause. Please
storyline,
just
so it's
pause.
not in.
Thank you very much.
I'm not putting full colour in because I'm trying to suggest the colour there again, as always, because it's kind of a Inktober is a black and white thing. It's ink and only ink. But you know, copic marker is still ink, so I put a little bit of ink down, put a little bit of colouring. But guys, can you guess the? Do you know what I've drawn? Do you know what scene I've drawn? Do you know what the reference is? If you do, again, let me know in the comment section down below. But we're coming up to 54 minutes, so I think we're pretty much done. We're done here. We've done a reference, and today's word was freeze. If you can see that, the word up there, if you can make out what's going on over here, you'll know that I'm just going to find a different colored pen. Yeah, if you could, if you know what the reference is, then definitely let me know in the comment section down below. But otherwise, don't forget to tune in again tomorrow, because tomorrow is Saturday, and normally I don't do any drawing, but tomorrow will be another prompt and another picture from that prompt for Inktober, guys. If you are a fan of me, again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ding the bell for notifications, and come back tomorrow for some more. If you want some gaming, because all you've been watching is drawing, then definitely tune in this weekend, because it's going to be Western Weekend. I'll put you up a reminder prompt so you guys can click that one to know when I'm going to be live if you didn't ding the bell. So yeah, if you're watching, click the links that will appear. Find out who this is over on my Instagram, and I'll see you later on. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Going now. It was the